Hello, and welcome to another Let's Play Planet Zoo. My name is Chris, and this is episode 11 of Perseid Zoo. In this episode, we are beginning work on the Great Plains exhibit here. This is where our bison and pronghorn antelope will be on exhibit. I wanted to model this area after a geological region in my near my home called the Flint Hills. It's in Kansas. It stretches basically all the way from the north part of Kansas all the way down to like north part of Oklahoma. If you've never been to it, or you've never heard of it, or never seen it, basically there are these rolling hills dotted by little creeks, and there are these geological formations caused by the underlying rock layer, which is basically just a bunch of limestone rock that's just being forced out over millions of years of erosion. So you end up with these large hills, and then the creeks are kind of rocky and exposing the actual limestone underneath the hills. So I wanted to kind of include that in the zoo here. Just a little bit of my home area. So we're working on the creek right now. If you remember, it came originally from the water that's running through the grizzly bear exhibit. So we've connected to that. That body of water there, that waterfall, feeds into this creek. Eventually this will go off to another part of the Americas exhibit, which will feature our timber wolves and now our polar bears, our reindeer, even though in the America we call them caribou. So it'll feature those animals as well, and the Arctic wolf. So it'll kind of continue out past this exhibit, kind of going through these rolling hills there. Right now I'm just kind of building a ridge for one of these hills. The creek will kind of just run through it, and then eventually underneath the path that we have laid over there with the knoll barrier fence towards the timber wolf exhibit, and then the polar bear exhibit, of course, and the Arctic wolf exhibit, and our caribou exhibit, or reindeer as the game calls them. So the Flint Hills region, most of the hills are formed by erosion, and the actual hills themselves are over limestone rock faces, or geological formations. I'm no geologist, so I don't know the proper terms. So you end up with these kind of nice, gentle, rolling hills. You don't really have anything too steep until you get towards the river banks, and then sometimes you'll have where the water has cut through a limestone formation and kind of carved out this little bit of a canyon. So yeah, we go in through and try to emulate that. Obviously, since this is terraformed, the hills are much smaller than what they are in real life, but I still kind of wanted to give that look and feel in the zoo here, where if you're standing on one of these observation platforms, you're still kind of looking up the hill just a little bit, so you can kind of get a picturesque shot of a pronghorn antelope or bison standing on the ridge of one of these hills. And the way this exhibit is laid out right now, so the sun would set over in the west there, so kind of towards that knoll barrier. So if you're standing on the ridge of the Americas there and you're looking west, as the park is closing, the sun's going down. You could get a picture of a bison or pronghorn antelope kind of silhouetted by the sunset standing on one of these hills is kind of the idea there. Similar to what you can get, well, we don't have pronghorn antelope anymore. We do have some bison still in the Flint Hills. They're on the Tall Grass National, I think it's a national prairie, national monument. But we still have some bison. I believe they were reintroduced, but if you want to see bison in Kansas, that's the place to go. first visit to Tallgrass Prairie, I was storm chasing out there with my then girlfriend and now wife. And actually, before I get into the story, I want to give a word of caution here. So you see me placing down these grasses, and you just saw the video cut there. The main reason for that is I didn't realize at the time that there is a collision box on top of the grasses. So what happened is when I put these grasses down to kind of create a kind of wetlands, like a wet prairie feel going through these hills here, the animals could walk on top of them. I figured since it was a grass, they could walk between, you know, as you could normally with a grass. I mean, obviously there would be clipping, but I figured they wouldn't have programmed the collision boxes for the grass. I was wrong. So my animals were walking on top of the grasses, and it looked absolutely ridiculous. So just kind of a word of warning there: if you sink the grasses down, the animals might walk on top of them, and it will look rather silly. So I ended up having to go through and delete all my grasses that I had painstakingly dropped down, but to kind of save you guys from having to watch that and then just see it get deleted, we just skipped ahead. But anyway, on with the story. So the first time I visited Tallgrass Prairie, I was storm chasing with my then girlfriend and now wife, and we got there with the idea that we'd see the Perseid's meteor shower. The Perseid's meteor shower kind of peaks during both our birthdays, which is, again, not why this park is called Perseid's, or Lord Perseid's Park, because the Perseid meteor shower has kind of a sentimental value for both of us. So I figured, hey, what a better name for a park than, you know, a fictional character called Lord Perseid, right? But anyway, yeah, so we were visiting Tallgrass Prairie, and we were going to go see the Perseid's meteor shower. We knew there was a storm coming, and we thought, you know, that'd be awesome, lightning plus meteor shower, right? We get there, and it's cloud cover. We can't see any of the stars at all. The storm had pushed out a whole bunch of clouds in front of it, so we couldn't see anything. So we're there in the visitor center, and we're watching the storm come on, and it was a lot bigger than what we expected. Somewhere there's a picture. We are in like the one dry spot of the visitor center, and there's like water pouring all around us, and it's raining sideways, and there's lightning every, you know, half second with big thunderclaps. My wife said she was terrified, but I thought it was kind of exciting and fun. But anyway, that was our first experience of tall grass here. So again, Flint Hills have a bit of a sentimental value, not only for just being near my homeland, or my home here, but also, you know, that was like one of the first dates we did was almost die in the Flint Hills during a thunderstorm. But anyway, so I'm laying down all these rocks here. A lot of the creeks in my part of Kansas are very rocky, again, because they're hitting the limestone base, you know, that's underneath these hills. So the creek bottoms are very, very rocky, very kind of where they get their name, Flint-like, you know, very flat, very Flint-like. I don't know of a better word to describe it. So you get all these kind of flat rocks around. We actually have a place in my now hometown of Lenexa called Flat Rock Creek, because you go out there and there's just this, you know, creek with a bunch of flat rocks. It's actually where the Oregon Trail crossed. So, which I wish we had some more like America's theme stuff, you know, where we can have like a covered wagon or something out here, but because that'd be really cool. Maybe I'll make one. I'm not really good with the art shape, so maybe not. But anyway, so we've got the all these flat rocks that we're just putting down on the bottom here to kind of emulate that geology. Now, we also in the Flint Hills here, you'll see like these kind of rocky outcroppings where the limestone underlayer, I guess maybe you would call it, I don't know, the limestone rock formation has become exposed, and you have these kind of they're not really big cliffs. I mean, you could probably stand at the base of one and look over the top. There's a few that are kind of large, but I mean, it's limestone, it's a very soft rock, so it's going to collapse. So when you do see it, it's usually very small, but you get these kind of little rocky outcroppings like this. So I just wanted to build those in there as well, just to kind of give the feel again that this is, modeled after the Flint Hills. Which, those of you who say, Kansas is flat, come to my part of Kansas, it's not flat. Actually, I would dare say eastern Colorado is flatter. Florida is probably the flattest state I've ever been in. I lived there for most of my life. But actually, no, I can't say that anymore because I'm an old man. I lived there for about half my life, less than half my life now. Jeez, I'm getting old. It seems like yesterday. But anyway, Florida is extremely flat compared to anywhere else I've lived, especially Kansas. So it bugs me when people say Kansas is flat. Yeah, I mean, it ain't no Colorado, but Colorado in the eastern part's a lot flatter than the rest of the state of Kansas, I would say. Yeah, if you've never seen or never heard of the Flint Hills, I encourage you to look up some pictures of them online. They are really pretty. At least they're my kind of pretty, I think. Someone might look at it and go, "Oh, that's ugly." Who would want just a bunch of grass and scraggly looking trees? So yeah, this is eventually where the creek will go through. Now again, I had placed these grasses down to kind of emulate what would be a wet prairie. So it was kind of a wet prairie is just a fancy way of saying marshy grassland. Some part that's low and flat for the majority of the time, it allows the water to kind of spread out, and you get a whole lot more reeds and tall grasses growing up. So it attracts a lot of birds, especially one of my favorite birds, the red-shouldered blackbirds. It ain't summer unless you hear them. At least out here in the Midwest, you hear their cry. And you know it's summer. It's kind of fun walking the trails and hearing them. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about Planet Zoo here. So you can start seeing the landscape coming together here. We've got the creek that'll eventually run through the wet prairie, but I turned it into a creek because, like I said, as soon as I hit play and let my animals roam, they were walking on top of the grasses rather than through them, which, again, looked absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, we're just placing down some foliage here, some ground cover. I think it was a little bit too much for the bison, but I was using the pronghorn antelope as the gauge for the foliage coverage, I believe is what it's called, the coverage. Again, putting these kind of like scraggly trees that we have in the Flint Hills. If you look at pictures, or if you actually go there, you'll see like these lone windswept trees, on top of a hill, just kind of all over the place. The majority of the foliage will stick, or the majority of the big trees will stick kind of towards the waterways. So you will get, your large cottonwoods, your elms, and then some of your smaller ones, even some pine trees thrown in there, following the creek itself. So actually it'd be a whole lot more dense in terms of foliage by the creek, but again, I wanted people to be able to see the creek and see the animals. So left that a little bit unrealistic, but still I think I made it dense enough that it does still give that vibe of, you know, the foliage is mostly around the water sources here. Now just kind of adding some enrichment items. I'm adding the mud pit here next to the water, coloring the soil around it, again to kind of make it look, you know, like it might be a bit of a wet prairie. Dropping down the reeds, again just kind of sell the illusion that this is a wet part of the exhibit here. That's why we dropped down the mud bath here too. Now I had the idea of trying to lay these guys down sideways, but just didn't really like how it was looking. You know, kind of make it look like the animals had been kind of walking through here, pushing it down, but I just couldn't get them flat enough where I liked it. Tucking in some more grasses here, just kind of giving it a little more diversity. I think just leaving that as a mud path works as well, because if it is really muddy soil and the animals are kind of stomping on through there, those grasses and reeds are just going to be pushed underneath the mud anyway. You're not going to really see them. Again, just going around adding some enrichment items here throughout the exhibit so that the animals, you know, have reason to go to these other parts of the exhibit. You know, putting different feeders here and there. Yes, I haven't really placed any walls yet. The animals can escape just about everywhere, so going in and fixing that now. For the most part, I'm going to leave an old barrier and design our own enclosure fence all the way around, but for like right in here, where I didn't want something too heavy, I think I just dropped the electric fence kind of small and pushed down so that the animals couldn't climb out of the water. And it's pretty realistic to what you would normally see in a zoo. By these water areas, you have a little electric fence just above the water. And no, you're not gonna, you know, electrify the whole pond and kill all the animals because of, you know, the electric fence came into contact with the water. Electric fences actually work on a pulse, so they're not always on. If you've ever gone up next to an electric fence, you'll hear like a clicking sound. It would like kind of like a pop. It'll be like just really kind of quiet. I'm actually not even sure if you guys would be able to hear that, especially once I add the soundtrack, but it's just a very soft, like rhythmic, you know, pop sound, and that is the electric fence turning on and off. So if they always let the electric fence on, if you were to come into contact with it, there's a risk that you might get stuck to the fence. And if that happens, you know, you're going to get pretty bad electrical burns. Electrical fences aren't as scary as they sound. Most people, I think, have the misconception of, like, you know, Jurassic Park, where they touch the electric fence and they're just sitting up there and the kid gets blasted off the fence. That's not really how electric fences work, but I don't know, I'm not designing dinosaur electric fences, so maybe that's how you would make an electric fence work for dinosaurs. But for like cattle, and I'm imagining what most zoos use are the same cattle electric fences. It's a rhythmic pulse. It's basically just if the animal gets too close, it'll shock them and then they won't go near that fence. They'll associate, oh, I should not touch this fence and knock it over, because most animals probably could easily knock over a small fence like that. I mean, I think even most humans could knock over a little wire fence that most rangers use. It's just kind of a deterrent. So it's not actually going to, turn you into a smoldering skeleton if you touch it. I'd equate it to, touching a live outlet. You get a good jolt, but you're fine. So now we're just designing our own custom fence pieces here for the enclosure. Originally had the idea of making this with these logs, kind of, homesteady log cabin feel. I really wasn't liking the selection of pieces we had for just cut logs. So eventually I kind of just go with the default that I've been doing before, or throughout the entire section here, and trying again and creating a more modern look and feel to it. And I have to say, that's like the ugliest light I've ever placed down, but I think at this point I'm just like, how can I make it look pretty? It looks out of place and gross. So eventually we move on to version 2 here, where we use the wooden posts, because I believe those ones are colorable, but I can't remember. One nice thing about the colorful posts here, if you stick to some more like the wood tones of color, it'll look like you've stained the wood different colors. Like you put like a chestnut stain on it, or an oak stain, or antique walnut stain, or whatever other stains that are out there. I've done enough home improvement projects. There's way too many stains that I can remember. Yeah, and it's still kind of following that same design, like the uneven cut. I'm not sure what you would call it, if it has a name or not, but where those posts are kind of at uneven intervals all the way up. Yeah, just kind of playing with different ideas here, seeing what I like, what looks good. Pretty close to the end design here. I think we dropped down one of those opaque glass pieces up here at the top. Yeah, there's the opaque piece there. And I believe we dropped one down at the bottom as well. Yep, there it is. So yeah, it's kind of getting close to the final design of the viewing area wall here. We just go through and kind of restain some of these. Yeah, we restain some of these pieces just to kind of some different colors, give it a little bit more texture, a little bit more interest, I guess, make it a little more interesting looking. Again, kind of sticking to those wood stain style colors. I also wanted to add a little bit of overhang here. I was seeing if I could grab any of the pre-built pieces, but none of them were really feeling very kind of what I wanted, so instead just kind of built our own here, using some of the thinner pieces. I think we tried this thick piece first, just kind of sliding it out, doing a slat roof. Didn't really like how it was looking, especially initially. Thought about kind of doing a slope up design, and then kind of got stuck. I think after I saw it, like, how is this going to actually connect to the rest of the wall here? So I think I finally deleted that, and then pretty much did the same idea but the opposite direction. Instead of sloping it up, slope it down, so then you can hide the supports for the roof there a little better, and it'll make it look a little bit more realistic rather than there's this precariously hanging piece of slope or a piece of roof, at an awkward slope. So yeah, just a little bit of a piece there. And then I grabbed some of these beams that we had already placed and just put them at an angle to make them look like they're holding up the roof piece here. So yeah, that's the final piece of final design of the wall pieces here. So we just go through and copy this all the way down. And yeah, having a little bit of trouble here, copying and pasting things, especially trying to get it into a way that when I send it all the way down to the end, it's not going to be, wildly off from the path down here. I've been just kind of dragging it all the way around. We'll do a little bit more to the curves there later on, but just for now, I think I changed it to a concrete wall. I had the idea originally to create the one-way glass here. I think I get rid of it later. I know I get rid of it later. I don't know if I get rid of it in one of these videos. This is part 1 of 3 for the I don't know if I mentioned that, but yes, this is part 1 of 3 for the Great Plains exhibit here. So I don't know if I deleted in one of those videos or if I deleted it when I was working on some issues that I was running into with the... Yeah, I think I deleted it in one of the Timberwolf videos. Yeah, I definitely deleted it in one of the Timberwolf videos. I'm remembering that now. So, yeah, it stays here. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look great either. I don't know, it just does not feel... It doesn't feel good. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it better. like I said, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look great either. At least when you're from like inside the animal exhibit here, looking at the barrier. And I guess that probably shouldn't be too much of a concern because, you know, guests aren't going to be seeing it from that area. But I mean, the front looks good. I do like how the front of this barrier came out, but the back, I don't know. There's probably more I can do. Eventually I delete this barrier because I was having other issues and I had to redraw most of the wall, but we'll get to that. I think that's in episode like 15. Episode 15 is a little bit different. It's more of a let's talk about the zoo. Because I ran into some issues and I kind of didn't want to show all those in a time lapse because I think it would just be a lot of, well, crap, we're going to delete this and the path didn't work. Oh crap, we're going to delete the path and oh my gosh, my water's not working anymore. You have to go back and fix the terrain, and why is the terrain not working? Oh my gosh, there's a path in the way. Why is the path in the way? Oh, because there's and so on and so forth. But anyway, so another thing I did here, I don't know if you guys have heard of it before, but Disney has a color that's known as Go Away Green. There's some debate as to what color that actually is because it's a proprietary color and there's non-disclosures about it. But the best guess on the internet is that it is not the hex color I just put down, because for whatever reason, if you paste the hex color into the little text box there and you hit apply, it actually doesn't apply it. I don't know why, but that's ridiculous. So I think I was looking at it again, and yeah, had to tweak it a few more times. But yeah, this is where I realized that, oh man, my grass is not right. But I tried to ignore it. Instead, we just build this retaining wall here. Or not retaining wall, sorry, a enclosure wall here. Eventually we'll be putting a nice little viewing area up there. I think that's the next episode. Yeah, that's the next episode. Where we put that viewing wall, or viewing area up there so that you can walk from the Cafe of the Americas plaza there. You can walk up and you have the viewing area. You can look out and see all the wonderful animals in this enclosure here. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the video here. Yeah, we're just gonna, this is where I start deleting all the grasses, all that hard work. I first tried to like lower them down, but anyway, yeah, we just end up deleting all the grasses. Delivering all the animals here, and I guess some pronghorns that escape off camera, but anyway, that's the end of the video. I'll see you guys on the next one, and thanks for watching. Let's close out with some cinematics.